Welcome. I'm Sherry Methvin, a realtor with Modern Abode Realty serving Edmond, Oklahoma and the greater Oklahoma City area. In this series, we're exploring the essential aspects of the home buying journey, offering practical advice to help you make informed and confident decisions. Buying a home is one of the most significant investments you'll make, and my goal is to ensure that the process feels both manageable and rewarding. Today, we're looking at earnest money and answering all of your questions about what it is, why it's important, who holds it, and how to manage it. Let's get started. So, what is earnest money? So, when a home goes under contract, the seller is going to take his home off the market. The earnest money is an amount of money that's negotiated and it's put up by the buyer and held in a trust account until the closing of the home. That money shows the seller that you're serious about purchasing their home. So, who holds the earnest money and how is it paid? Well, once a contract is finalized, when both buyer and seller have signed the contract, the earnest money within 3 days needs to be delivered to the earnest money holder. These days, typically the earnest money holder is the title company where the transaction is going to be closed. Now, once that money is delivered, the check or funds will be cash, so be prepared for that. And also know that the funds have to be in the form, they can't be cash. So they have to be in the form of a check, money order, cashier's check, a money wire from your bank to the title company. And even sometimes some title companies have a simpler way of transferring the funds, kind of like a Cash App or a Venmo. Another thing to note is typically the buyer gets to choose the title company where you close, but there are some special circumstances. So if you're purchasing a home from a builder or relocation company, or if it's a bank owned property, usually these types of situations have their own contracts and they usually can dictate how much earnest money is going to be and where you close on those transactions. So keep that in mind too. And those aren't really as negotiable as they are if you put them on the Oklahoma contract. And one other exception to note is that sometimes the listing agents will put into the MLS that the seller wants to close at this particular title company. And they also might stipulate what the earnest money should be. And it's completely up to you if you want to go along with those. I always tell my buyers, though, if they stipulate that, I don't know, I just say in the spirit of cooperation, let's just go with it because you want to just be as cooperative as possible, especially upfront during the negotiation process. You never know what's going to happen in the future, but try to stay off on the right foot. So I say if the listing agent stipulates the title company or the amount of the earnest money, we just stick with that if possible. A question I often get too is how much should the earnest money be? And I think typical across the United States, at least in Oklahoma these days, is about 1%. So if you're purchasing a $200,000 home, the earnest money is typically about 1% or $2,000. However, this amount is definitely negotiable. So you could offer $1,000 earnest money, you could offer $5,000 earnest money. It's completely up to you, but know that it's a negotiated item. So once you turn in that offer to the seller, they could come back and say, we want more earnest money. They don't typically say they want less, but they could say that we want more earnest money, and then that's negotiated. So can you get your earnest money back? Yes. Typically, in the best case scenario, your earnest money is placed toward your closing costs and your down payment as a credit at closing. However, if for some reason that you're unhappy with the investigations, inspections, or reviews during the contract inspections period, or if for some reason your loan doesn't go through as you wanted it to, maybe something happens, or maybe it doesn't appraise, then you can get your earnest money back in that case. Just know that most of the time, if there's a contract failure, the buyer will get the earnest money back. Now, the only reason that that wouldn't happen is if there's some kind of contract violation by the buyer, timeframes aren't met, something happens during the contract period, then the buyer may lose their earnest money, but that doesn't happen very often. I would say that is a very rare case. I've had that happen maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in all the transactions that I've done. If as long as you stay within the timeframes of the contract and you're happy with the home, then that money will be applied when you close to your closing costs or your down payment. Another thing to note is that if you're purchasing a home not from an individual and you're not using the Oklahoma contract, that they may have different stipulations on how you get that earnest money back and what qualifies as a reason to get it back. So keep that in mind too. Make sure you read over the contract or the realtor reads over the contract, that everybody's okay with how that earnest money is handled in different situations. So today we covered what earnest money is, the payment process, who holds it, the amount of the earnest money, refund scenarios, and also some different types of scenarios where you don't get to make the choices that you like necessarily. If you have any questions about earnest money or any part of the home buying process, make a note below and I'm happy to answer your questions. Hope to hear from you soon.
If you like what you learned, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sherry Sells Homes, no spaces, and my Facebook page, Sherry Methvin Sells Homes with spaces. Next, we'll be exploring multiple offers and how to navigate them. See you then.